All right, Matt, we have just, it's 11, oh no, what time is it? 10 o'clock?
It's 11, yeah.
It's 11 o'clock and we've just on, what's the date today?
It's the 1st of August.
1st of August, 2026. We had
26,
our first Sydney wetware meetup.
Yeah.
We've got Daniel and Ed. Matt, thank you for hosting.
That's all right, yeah.
We're in your lovely living room right now. We had some, this is great. I know we've been planning this for a while, maybe even a year.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you starting it.
No, it was,
getting things off the ground.
Pleasure.
What are your thoughts?
That was really fun. It was a stimulating discussion between, people who'd worked with robotics, hardware, software, and then biology all coming together in one place.
And I think, it was fantastic because obviously it's funny how both Ed and Daniel had a past at Bio.
Yeah,
and that's a very common thread among startups in Sydney.
Yeah.
And both. I felt a bit left out there at one point because I haven't really worked with bioreactors or media too much, but I like your analogy between the rockets and bioreactors, the big beautiful machine. Tell me, where tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think when we think about all of these great industries that are emerging out of the hardware side of the economy, you've got nuclear reactors, you've got rockets launching into space, you've got robots, and biotech really has been struggling to find its form factor. And I think the one that we sort of ended up on in tonight's discussion was the reactor system, because ultimately a reactor is just a giant human controlled or human steered at least system of cells in a culture medium. And if we can run many parallel experiments in the same reactor, then what you get is essentially an industrial form factor for biology.
You kept bringing up Genentech, and how that was the big. I think really the first and last true biotech company.
Last true in memory.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And we're trying to find out, now in 2026, what would be closest to Genentech? Because what I'm seeing right now, of course, you have, we're building, what do you call the AWS for bio, or there's, Latch Bio is one example. You've got Xeon Systems, you've got Tetsuan Biotech, which are fantastic companies, but they're mostly building, how would you call it? Like the medium to allow scientists to...
They're building an MCP for frontier models to connect to the kinds of data that we already have from biology experiments in the past. Yeah.
And these systems are needed to accelerate discovery, to accelerate bio, and really just to manage data as well. It's a great mix of biological data, which, as you know, is very complicated, very multimodal, but it's okay. Developing new database systems, developing new robotics is innovation, but it's not innovation in the science of biology, right? So I think where do we see that coming from? I think I see that next innovation in biotech coming from not necessarily an academic institution. I don't think the next CRISPRs or Nobel Prize winning science is probably going to come, from your Caltechs or Berkeley's or Harvard's, etc. But maybe places like Anthropic and DeepMind, Isomorphic Labs, OpenAI, they're all, great example is Anthropic's hiring a virologist, paying them $1 million a year.
Yes.
Right. So there's a big biosecurity, AI safety push there, which will not require development of engineering systems, but will actually require development of, hey, we need some new science here. So what's curious to get your thoughts on that.
So I think the frontier companies have a very strong assumption that language is the ultimate medium for all invention. And so I think that they're hiring all of these domain experts to try and explain in their native terms the way that they think about each of their fields. In terms of virology, like how a virus is structured is probably extremely intricate in the mind of a virologist compared to any other scientist, for example. And so explaining that firsthand to an LLM from the viewpoint of a virologist would actually be extremely useful context for the model to become better at understanding viruses, right? And so I think that assumption is a very plausible assumption and will take the models to a new level of understanding as they absorb that context. But I still think that because after all these years of experiments, biologists still don't understand biology, not everything is captured in language. And in fact, I think there's a large search space in biology that cannot be expressed in language, since it's too much for the human brain to comprehend. And so I think that there has to be a way to kind of get direct high bandwidth interface with biology itself in a way that cuts out the middleman. Unfortunately, that's us as scientists, and just allows the model to learn purely from the raw data rather than having an interpretation layer in the form of language.
Then what is the role of the scientist? Actually, before I ask that question, where's the innovation really coming from? Is it the biologist, the software engineer, the hardware engineer? I'm a scientist. I work in sequencing, but I'm mainly in the software engineering side, but I have a bit of a strong biology domain.
Yeah.
Where do I actually focus on the next 3 years? Is it, like, my answer to that is, one, the people you're working with and the network you have, and two is the data you're working with, right? So I'm at Garvin working with long-read single-cell RNA sequencing data, right? And I don't think many labs in the world have that. So that is sort of my edge in this space, in my field, right? But should I be, in my spare time building mini bioreactors?
I think that's like a great question, because everyone's trying to figure out if the models can understand the fine details of every system, every complicated system. What do humans do? And my understanding, at least the one that I've come to as of this evening, is humans will be moved way upstream of the process into the layer of invention and imagination. And there was a famous quote, like Einstein said it, where like imagination or curiosity is more important than knowledge, because knowledge contains everything that people know already, and you can interpolate knowledge, and that's what the models are good at doing, interpolation. But extrapolation to new territory is something that happens when you kind of ignore the fine detail a little bit and then make a guess at what comes next. And I think like that part of science where you're at the whiteboard, you're brainstorming, you're free floating ideas, the fun part for a pure scientist is going to come right back as the models take over the process of laborious data churning that happens downstream.
Yeah. What is, today we had the first meeting of Sydney Wetware, which was fantastic. What is your idea for these meetups? Is it, because you mentioned the idea of the traditional academic seminar, where, hey, I have this paper, or this is my research, I'm just going to talk about it for 15 minutes. It's very one-sided. Yeah. But I know what they're doing in New York is just peptide parties. I'm not sure if that's going to be too popular here. But where's the middle ground? Like, if we're a bunch of scientists, engineers, we want to talk about, the next frontier of bioengineering, what are we doing on a Saturday night?
I think we're having raw discussions about half-formed ideas which point in a positive direction for the future, like we just had about the bioreactors. I think when it gets to the stage where you are just more or less cross-pollinating each other's knowledge, then you get a process of new learning, new invention, innovation, more or less. And I think that the middle ground is actually just talking in person and bouncing ideas off each other. And I want to actually push a little on the point you made about the original state of academia being a lecture. I actually think that's if you look further back in history than the lecture itself, there was the forum, right? In the time of Aristotle's in the Greeks, you literally went into the middle of like an audience of people, and then you just started talking to each other, or like just spitballing ideas about how you think the universe might work, where your limits of understanding are, what experiments you could do to test those limits, and then push them further than people have before. And I think that it's ironic, but it's actually kind of freeing to know that the models are taking care of the data churning side of things, moving humans back up the stack to a time where you could just freely exchange ideas again and think about the next steps, looking ahead into the future rather than spending too much time in the after effects of the past. Yeah,
perfect.